Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Elliot Confidential podcast. My name is Iden, and I'm joined by my father, Christopher Elliot, and my brother, Aren Elliot. How are you guys doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I did the introduction today because I still have my morning voice, and I sound like the most beautiful, gracious narrator on this planet.
You do have a good voiceover voice.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman, yes. Voice of God.
If I had this voice all day, I would be a professional voice actor. Sadly, I don't.
You have a pretty good voice.
After a few hours, it's, hey guys, welcome back to the Elliot Confidential podcast. My name is Iden.
We are coming to you today we're doing a same day podcast. Do you know what that means? It means that we are recording the podcast on the same day that we're releasing it.
Wow. Amazing.
And
AKA, we did it last minute.
we didn't do it at the last minute. We actually did one yesterday and then decided that we did not want to use it.
Yes, and maybe I could give a little information.
I better do this one.
Okay.
So we had a couple of very interesting comments last week. We asked, after we went to Zagreb, we actually talked a little bit about our overall impressions of Croatia, and we said some positive things and some negative things. And we had quite a response from our listeners about that. And so we responded to some in the original version of our podcast. We responded to some, and then after we listened to it, we said, you know what? Maybe not. So after reading over all of your comments last week, we decided that the best thing to say was, we read the comments, we hear you, we understand how you feel, and we appreciate it. And now let's get on with the show. So, that said, where are we this week?
Cyprus.
Cyprus.
We flew from Split to Vienna, and then from Vienna to Nicosia. Actually, we're in Nicosia now, but we flew into Larnaca, which is where the international airport is, and we spent a couple of days there.
Yeah, Larnaca's nice. But before we talk about Larnaca, let's go in chronological order. Let's talk about the airport in Vienna.
Okay, fine.
Let's talk about it, because I think that you like the airport, Iden likes the airport, I like the airport. It's a nice airport.
Yeah, the only issue, though, is that you are blocked off from all the good stuff. You need to get your passport stamped in order to go into the main area of the airport where all the good food is.
And you lose a Schengen day, too.
Yes, you do. If we had extra Schengen days, I think we honestly would have gone to that section because it was so nice. They had all these different food options that we could have brought back.
The Vienna airport is very different from when I was growing up. When I was there in the 70s and 80s, it was just one terminal, and now it is a big airport.
It's a labyrinth.
It is a labyrinth, as only the Austrians could create. I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. But it's a labyrinth filled with delicious Austrian food. I'm talking about cakes and Apfelstrudel and all kinds of things. And we had the privilege of spending a couple of hours there, and we ate everything that we could.
I know, and it's crazy. I never thought that in an airport terminal I would find cakes or Apfelstrudels that were as good as those. But we did. We found them, and it was quite the experience. Even though we were stuck in the international terminal and they didn't really have that many options, it was a nice experience.
It was very good.
So now we're in Cyprus.
Now we're in Cyprus, and Cyprus has been really a huge change from Croatia. We stayed right on the main square in Larnaca, which is where they have a beautiful church.
Of St. Lazarus.
Church of St. Lazarus, right? And it's only 2 blocks away from the ocean. I think we were the only Americans there. Everyone else is Russian.
Yeah, there's a lot of Russians there.
All the signs are in Cyrillic. I couldn't believe it. I just was not expecting that at all.
And time to now drop the question of the week is, which destinations have you been to that you realize that you're not the main demographic, you're not the target audience? Let us know in the comments. I know that there's a lot of places that I've been to, like for example, Madeira in Portugal is a good example. So many tourists from Germany as opposed to other parts of the world. I mean, I guess as someone from the United States, you're used to, all the tourists being from the United States or somewhere in that vicinity, somewhere that you can actually recognize.
Yeah. So your question is, where have you gone where you felt kind of out of place because you're not the target demographic?
Yeah.
Like being on a cruise and you're like 30 years younger than everyone else, or 30 years older. too. You could be on one of those carnival cruises where everyone is there is drinking and you just want to get a little peace and quiet.
Or if you're on one of those like LGBTQ cruises.
I've written about that. There's no way you can write about an LGBTQ cruise
Without offending
or theme
people.
cruise without offending someone. And so
Oh, that would be so funny if like some random straight guy accidentally went onto an LGBTQ.
it happened. I actually wrote about it. There was it was a family that ended up on an LGBTQ.
Family.
It was a
Oh,
family.
no!
And it was two young children, and they went into an elevator. I just never will forget this anecdote. And they walked in, and there were these two guys, and they were dressed entirely in leather, and one of them was holding a leash, and he had the other guy at the end of a leash, and he had a studded collar on.
Oh my God.
And the woman had to try to explain this to her like 5 and 6-year-old, like, Mommy, why does he have a leash on?
Oh my God. That should be made into a comedy skit.
But like I said, when I wrote about it, I had a lot of people who were very offended. I mean, you just can't, you can't write about that.
That is so funny.
Yes.
That is so funny.
But true story.
Hey, but I've got to say, speaking of cruises, there is a cruise terminal here, so I guess you can cruise to Larnaca and to Cyprus for that matter. And Larnaca is the place where the airport is. So if you go to the Greek side of Cyprus, you're probably flying into Larnaca.
Yes, that is where the international airport is. And really, the beach is quite lovely. There's a lot of nice little Greek restaurants. The food is incredible. I mean, if you like Greek food, this is definitely the place to be.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. We had some great food experiences there. I mean, he wasn't able to get out a lot because he was so busy. But he has this anecdote. He went, he was, in that square where St. Lazarus Church is. And what did you find there?
I found, as I was walking, this little hole in the wall area that sold some pastries. And in the corner of my eye, I see this little label that said vegan. And, just by chance, I just went over to buy it. That was the best halva pastry I've ever had in my life.
It was like a simit with halva inside.
Well,
of it.
and
Amazing.
the thing about the way that they make the food here is when you're doing fasting, which is something that Greek Orthodox folks do, is that they will cook, they'll make pastries without eggs or milk. So there's a lot of plant-based selections.
Yeah, you can't eat things with eggs or milk after you fast.
And I have actually a great anecdote too. We went to a Lebanese restaurant one day, and the guy there was really nice. He was definitely from Beirut, and he was like, you'll love my food. I got five stars. And he's a very enthusiastic guy, and his food was very, very good. So the next day, Aren and I are walking toward the beach, and this car slows down and then comes to a stop. And we hear this voice. It's, "You like my food? How is the food?" And it was the guy who owned the restaurant. He pulled over to ask us how we liked his food. And of course, we said we liked your food a lot.
Now that's some great service.
That's definitely, in marketing, they would call that follow-up or something like that.
A literal follow-up.
That was a real in-person follow-up.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I really like the way that, this is a lot like being in Athens, except it's much more chill and laid back. Everyone here is on island time.
Yeah.
So I didn't think it was possible to get any more chill than Athens, because the Athenians are pretty chill, but Cyprus is even more chill.
Yeah. And so now we're in Nicosia, which is definitely not Larnaca. We don't have any beach here. And we're very close to the border between the Turkish Northern Cyprus Republic, whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
And it's pretty nice here too.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to, we're going to explore, and we'll report back in our next podcast. But before we sign off, let's get to your comments from last week. As I said at the top of this podcast, there were a lot of folks who were not happy at all with what we said about Croatia. And to them, I'm just going to repeat, we love hearing from you, even if you disagree with us. Please keep your comments coming. So our question of the week last week was, have you ever been a place that was kind of overhyped, and you realized when you were there that it was overhyped, and where was that? And tell us about it. So we had a comment actually from Neil, who was talking about a place that lived up to the hype, which is great actually, because we just no matter what you say, we love hearing from you. Neil said he got back from a 10-day visit to Poland, put on almost 1,300 miles. He says, in my view, it's the most underrated country I've ever been to. The cleanest country I've ever seen. There's no litter anywhere. Puts the US to shame. Great food, very friendly people. You have historic cities like Krakow, Warsaw, ski areas like Zakopane, and the houses remind me of Switzerland there. And he also says, visit historic Auschwitz. It's a once-in-a-lifetime sobering experience. And you know, what you guys may not know is that I used to be the Eastern Europe editor for Travel Weekly way back when. This was right after the Iron Curtain was parted, and I was covering Poland, and I saw Poland as it was during the transition. It is a really cool country. Also, my grandmother, your grandmother, my grandmother too, is from Poland originally. Came over during World War II.
Are you talking to the audience? Your grandmother's from Poland, guys.
No, I was looking at
Poland.
Aren when I said that. Tim says, my answer to your question about hyped destinations that were a total disappointment, Acapulco. Flew in one day, beautiful hotel on the beach, 2 teens with machine guns apparently guarding the driveway entrance were a bit disconcerting. And he says, iguanas climbing up the wall of my room. Made me wish I had borrowed one of the machine guns. I can only imagine Tim taking aim at iguanas with a machine gun. And then a walk to find dinner, encountered the same really sketchy characters. Rather, he said encountered some sketchy characters along the way. So he called his airline the next day and flew out.
Ay.
Yeah, I guess when it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. But iguanas, I don't know. Iguanas are kind of cool. It would be something if there's like cockroaches or spiders. But iguanas, I think I would have more tolerance. But it depends. Obviously, I don't know. I don't know what type of iguanas you were experiencing.
Oh, those iguanas can get really big.
Ay.
KP says, I was trying to think of a place I visited that was disappointing, and then I read trendy. I do not go to trendy places. Very good, KP. I also cannot think of a place that was disappointing to me. I was taken to the castle at Turku, Finland. If you were expecting the opulence of Windsor Castle or Chatsworth, you might be disappointed. But when you look at what was built in the 13th century, you should be impressed at what was built without modern equipment and is still standing. So true, KP. You know, you've got to appreciate what you have. And I think we do try to do that in our travels. Don't always succeed, but we do try. Well, that's it for this week. I'm so glad you guys joined us. We are going to be in Cyprus for the next few weeks. And we'll get back to you with a full report on Cyprus. We'll see you then.
See you.
Ciao.